I was lying in a hospital bed, a ventilator forcing air into my lungs, while my soul hovered in that gray space between here and gone. I had been in a head-on collision with a distracted driver, and my 5-year-old daughter, Lily, had been in the back seat. By some miracle, she walked away with scratches, but I was broken. When the hospital social worker finally tracked down my parents, Martha and Joe, she didn't get the reaction of grieving grandparents. She didn't get a frantic "we're coming right now." Instead, through the speakerphone in my room while I lay there, trapped in a coma but hearing every single word, my mother's voice came through cold and sharp. She said, "We aren't taking that girl. Lily is a nightmare to deal with on a good day. And we have a cruise booked for my son Caleb's promotion. She's the state's problem now. Don't call this number again unless there's an inheritance to discuss." That was the moment the woman I used to be died. Not from the broken ribs or the internal bleeding, but from the realization that to my own flesh and blood, my life was a line item and my daughter was an inconvenience. My brother Caleb was the golden child. He could do no wrong. Even though I was the one who had spent the last decade paying off my parents' credit card debt and making sure their mortgage was covered. They hated Lily because she was different. She has high-functioning autism. And to my traditional parents, her sensitivity to noise and her need for routine were just signs of being a spoiled brat. While I fought for my life, they left their only grandchild in a cold government office with a social worker, all so they could go sip champagne on a boat to celebrate Caleb's success. For 3 weeks, I was a ghost in my own body. I heard the nurses whispering about the poor little girl whose family refused to pick her up. I heard the doctors discussing my diminishing quality of life, and then on the 22nd day, I opened my eyes. The recovery wasn't cinematic. It was agony. It was learning to walk again while my heart felt like a lead weight in my chest. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the phone records I found once I got my hands on my mobile. My parents hadn't just ignored me. They had used my emergency access codes to drain my savings account, the one I had spent years building for Lily's college fund. They had withdrawn $45,000. When I called my mother, her voice didn't even tremble. She said, "We figured you wouldn't need it where you were going. And Caleb needed a down payment for his new condo." It's what a good sister would have wanted. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply hung up the phone. They thought I was a broken, bankrupt single mother with nowhere to go. They didn't know that before the accident, I had been a senior forensic accountant for one of the top firms in the country. I knew where every cent was buried. I knew how to track a paper trail through a hurricane. And most importantly, I knew that my parents had been borrowing against their home for years to fund Caleb's lifestyle. I spent the next 6 months in a quiet, burning rage. I moved Lily and me to a small apartment in a different city, telling my family absolutely nothing. To them, I had simply vanished into the system. I let them believe I was destitute. I let them believe they had but while they were living it up in Caleb's new condo, a condo bought with my stolen money, I was working. I took my settlement from the accident, which was substantial, and I didn't spend a dime on luxury. I invested. I bought up debt portfolios. I specialized in distressed assets. I waited for the inevitable. See, Caleb wasn't actually a successful executive. He was a gambler. He had a system that involved high-stakes day trading with money that wasn't his. And my parents, in their infinite wisdom, had co-signed on a massive business loan for him, using their family home as collateral. They thought he was a genius. I knew he was a crash waiting to happen. 18 months later, the crash came. Caleb's investments went to zero. The bank came calling for the business loan. My parents were blindsided. They tried to call me, but my number was changed. They tried to find me, but I had scrubbed my digital footprint. They were facing total ruin. The house they had lived in for 40 years, the house where I grew up, was headed for the auction block. They were desperate. They were terrified. And that's when I decided it was time to come home. Not as a daughter, but as the owner of Atlas Acquisitions LLC, the company that had just purchased their mortgage from the bank for pennies on the dollar. I drove up to the old house in a car that cost more than their entire remaining net worth. I walked up the driveway where I used to play, wearing a suit that radiated power. When my mother opened the door, she looked 20 years older. Her eyes lit up with a disgusting, opportunistic hope. "Oh, thank God," she cried, reaching out to grab my arm. "You're alive, you're okay. We've been so worried. You have to help us, honey." The bank is trying to take the house. They're saying we have to leave in 30 days. You have money, right? You can talk to them. I looked her dead in the eye, the same eye that watched her call my daughter a nightmare on a speakerphone. I didn't flinch. I didn't soften. I pulled a folder from my briefcase and handed it to her. The bank isn't taking the house, Mom, I said. My voice was as cold as the hospital room I'd woken up in. I bought the note 3 weeks ago. I'm the owner now. The color drained from her face. My father, Joe, came stumbling out of the living room, smelling like cheap scotch. What are you talking about? You can't do that. We're family. I laughed, and it was a sound that made them both flinch. Family doesn't leave a 5-year-old in a social worker's office because they have a cruise to catch. Family doesn't steal $45,000 from a woman in a coma. You made your choice in that hospital, and now, I'm making mine. I gave them exactly 24 hours to vacate. No extensions, no mercy. I told them that if they wanted a place to stay, they could go to Caleb the golden child who had spent every cent they had. But Caleb, being the coward he is, had already changed his locks and stopped answering their calls the moment the money ran out. My parents ended up in a tiny, one-bedroom rental in a part of town they used to scoff at. I made sure the local community knew exactly why they were moving. I released the recording of that hospital phone call, the one the social worker had recorded for legal purposes, to our extended family and their church group. The social ostracization was swifter than the legal one. Now, when I drive Lily to her specialized school, we pass by the old neighborhood. She doesn't even remember them, and that is my greatest victory. She is thriving, happy, and loved. My parents send me letters sometimes, begging for forgiveness or a loan to get back on their feet. I don't open them. I don't need to. I already have everything I wanted. I have my health. I have my daughter, and I have the deed to the house they thought they could steal from me. They called my daughter a nightmare, but in the end, it was me who became theirs. And I sleep perfectly fine every single night.